Hello my friends, and welcome back to a new video. This video today is going to be a bit of a continuation of the last one that I made, which was entitled My Portuguese Tax Nightmare. So we're going to talk about that, what's happened, what's happening with this, as well as my overall thoughts about life here in Portugal and what's been going on, I would say, over the last month or so. So let's get into the tax situation because I think that I really left this one kind of hanging. As I had said in the last video, my friend Luis and his father helped me out. His father was the head of a Finanças department in a local region. So they refiled my tax under the understanding that I'm not supposed to be owing tax here in Portugal because I owe it in the United States. There's a double taxation treaty plus the specific way that I earn my income as a business owner. So they filed the amended tax return with like a few days to go before the deadline of when I was supposed to pay. And surprisingly, I would say shockingly even, I got a letter in the mail, like maybe it was September 2nd or 3rd or something. Like it was right around the deadline of when I was supposed to pay. And I got these two letters in the mail actually. I'm going to show them to you. So they were a little bit hard to understand, but basically this one specifically, where it says like you owe this much, but then it had minus the total amount. And this is like acerto de contas. So like an update of the accounts, and it had said basically that be notified that this demonstrates the update of the accounts, meaning like that according to this paper from the Finanças department, I have no more tax debt. And I was like, this is some kind of a Christmas miracle. Like, how did this happen within a few days of having my amended tax return uploaded into the Finanças website that they've fixed the problem? Like, I don't owe the money anymore. And I was just shocked because with my experience of things in Portugal, like nothing is ever that simple, nothing is ever that easy, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take this as a win, and I'm really, really happy with the outcome of that. So then, I was like, all right, I'm moving on with my life. I'm not thinking about finanzas, taxes, etc. anymore. Like this was a nightmare. I learned my lesson, and coming into this next year, I'm really going to have to be, more organized and, find the right person to file my taxes for me. But at least I'm operating from a standpoint now of understanding and knowing that I should not be owing taxes here in Portugal. So everything was fine, moved on with my life as I said, and then a few days later I get another letter in the mail from Finanças. And when I got it, I was like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I was just kind of resigned to this madness. So this one says that I still owe the total amount, and it's offering for me to pay in monthly installments for up to 36 months. And it's just like, wait, this doesn't make any sense because the letter that I had received 2 weeks ago says that I owe no money to Portugal, like that my debt is cleared. And then all of a sudden I'm getting one that says that I do owe the money. So, it just is very confusing at this point, and I texted my friend Luis, who then asked his dad, like, what's going on with this? I'm waiting for a response. It's just like, it's a perfect example of kind of the frustration that I feel at times living here in Portugal with the bureaucratic system and life in general. So another thing that I'm going through right now is trying to exchange my US driver's license for a Portuguese driver's license. And on the surface, it seems like an easy enough, though still very involved process of I had to get my certified driving record from the United States, then have that apostilled, and then there's a website where you upload all these documents, your driving record, the apostille, your copy of your US driver's license, copy of your residency card. You have to go to a doctor and get a health certificate. So I did all of those things. And then a day or so later, I get an email that says that my residency card copy was not legible, which is crazy because it was perfectly legible. So then I upload everything again. And then I get another email a day later. This time it says you need to upload a proof of like tax domicile. So then I had to like find another document online from the Finanças website, download that, upload everything again. So now I've gone through this process twice of uploading documents, and I'm waiting to see, all right, is it going to go through this time? But from my understanding, this process now can take like months from here. So, it's just like everything is a little bit more complicated. And when I compare, the processes of things that I go through here versus what it was like in Bali, where I had my agent at the time, the one that was dealing with my business and my residency and all of this, like their assistant brought me to, I guess what would be the equivalent of the DMV, whatever the driving office, government office is. And I paid like, I don't know, $60 or something. And there was no paperwork. I think maybe I signed something. I took a picture. Within 30 minutes, I had my Indonesian driving license in my hand. There was no even like proof that I know how to drive a car or a motorcycle or anything whatsoever. And, similarly, like with the tax situation, I was in such a gray area. And so I was able to kind of operate within that gray area without any issue, like, and here everything is just so much more complicated, more expensive, more time consuming, more stressful. And I've just been in kind of a nostalgic mood, I would say, also over the last few weeks to a month, of missing my life in Bali. And I know that, when you look back on things in the past, like you only tend to remember the good things about it. Like, and I do remember as well when I was living in Bali, the kind of boredom that I felt, the isolation that I felt, like being so anxious to wanting to get out of there. But, now when I compare, like I have a very similar life in some ways of the kinds of routine and thing that I do. It's just that I have no help here. Like I do everything for myself. I cook for myself. I do my own groceries. I clean my own house. I do my own laundry. And at the same time, like, yes, I would say, a better social life, and I've made more friends here, and I meet a lot more guys, but it's still kind of the same frustration of I'm not meeting the kinds of guys. How do I say this? Okay, so I meet a lot of guys for sex, and people seem to really appreciate me for sex, which I mean, great. I'm glad that at least they appreciate me for this, but when it comes to finding someone to build a relationship with, it's still a challenge. And, I get my hopes up every once in a while. I meet someone and we start to date, and then it doesn't evolve. And the whole reason that I moved here to Portugal was to give myself a chance at building the life that I really want, which is a life, having a relationship and that, and I felt like it really wasn't going to happen for me in Bali. So when I'm struggling with the same issues here, it kind of at times feels like, well, what am I doing here? I'm spending so much more money to live here. My life is more, I wouldn't call it challenging, but it's more, what would be the right word? Tiring. It's more, it requires more effort, I guess, like I looked at my bills the other day and I realized that my living expenses here are at least around $4,000 a month. Half of that is my rent, half of it is like just basic food stuff, and I very rarely go out to eat. I cook pretty much every meal every day, which is insane for me because I had never done that in my life before, especially the last 7 years before I moved here of living in Bali, Thailand, and Mexico. I ate out every meal every day. And somehow, eating at home, going grocery shopping every day costs more than when I was in Bali, ordering delivery and going out to restaurants every single day. I think that my cost of food in Bali was definitely not more than, let's say $20 a day, so we're coming out to 600. And then let's just even round up. Let's say like 700-800 even, if you throw in like, a nicer meal every once in a while, which I hardly actually ever did. But point being that when I look at how much I'm spending on groceries alone here, it's at least like $1,000 a month. And that just to me seems so crazy. Like, how is it possible that I'm spending so much money just for groceries? It's not like I'm buying foie gras and caviar. You know, like I'm buying chicken breasts, I'm buying frozen salmon, I'm buying, like I buy healthy food and I buy abundantly. Like I go grocery shopping almost every single day. But again, I'm not buying crazy things. Like it just doesn't make sense to me in the adding up. Like how am I spending so much money? And then I think about as well, like to me, my life doesn't seem that luxurious here. I drive a motorbike, I don't go out to like, restaurants that frequently. I have a pretty chill life. And how am I spending $4,000 a month? And then I think about as well how the average salary here is something like 1,200 euros a month. Like, I don't understand how anybody can live on that. Even if, even if you were to take away my rent, let's say that my rent was zero because I'm living with family, well, I'm still spending like $2,000 a month on miscellaneous food, plus my, health insurance, plus, my gym membership, plus like, whatever. Yes, there are things that are cheaper. For example, I could go to a cheaper gym, but then we're talking about a difference of maybe like 60 euros a month. It's not a groundbreaking amount of money. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of like surprised when I think about also what my quality of life here versus my quality of life in Bali. And I think that the biggest difference again is that in Bali, if you guys followed me back then, you knew the house that I was living in. I lived in a large villa, a 3 bedroom, 3 bathroom villa with a pool. I had people working for me. And, that cost less than half of what I'm paying to rent, a 2 bedroom apartment in Lisbon. And yes, there are certain things you can't really compare and necessarily even put a price on. For example, I think that the weather is much better and more suited to my comfort here in Europe. I don't like heat and humidity all the time. I like the fact that here the air is clean. Things in general are clean. The roads are well maintained. Like you have infrastructure that is much more pleasant, on a day-to-day basis to live in. But, on the other hand, I think about how, for example, if I'm at home by myself, eating dinner by myself, which I had to cook, prepare for myself, and I'm sitting in front of the TV watching Netflix, well, it's very similar to how I spent most of my evenings in Bali, which is like I would order my food. It would come delivered though. I didn't have to prepare it. And then I would sit in front of, my TV in the living room, watch my Netflix, but at least there, when I turned my head to the right, I would see my illuminated pool and my garden of flowers and all of these things, and I was like cocooned because it was also very private. I had these big walls, so there was nobody looking in on me. Whereas here, I'll turn my head to the right and I have a vis-a-vis, to the buildings in the next, on like the opposite side of the street. And I really don't like that. Like, I don't like the feeling of being watched. I don't like the feeling of like having walls that are closing in on me. This is something where my soul craves more space and like an open view. And I think that's the biggest problem that I have specifically with this apartment. And it's very amusing to me at times because I have friends come over. I do dinner parties rather regularly now. It's something I actually enjoy, like cooking for friends. But, my European friends will come over, and if they've never been here before, the first thing they say is like, wow, your apartment is so big. And to me, the space feels very small. I don't know exactly what it is, 80 or 90 square meters. Again, I'm coming from a villa in Bali, so like this is, considerably downsized to me, even though in the past I've lived in smaller apartments. But, to me, this just like, I need a bigger space to live in. And I want to look out onto something that's not, someone else's building. So at this phase of my life now, what I'm thinking most about is really wanting to buy a home and kind of feel grounded and start to like really create the life that I want. And again, my biggest frustration is that when I close my eyes or when I just think about the life that I really want to manifest, it involves being in a relationship. Like I want to build this life with someone. I want to live in a house. I want like kind of this bourgeois domestic life. I'm not someone that really likes to go out and party. I'll do it maybe once a month here if my friends are going out, and there seems to just kind of be like a synergy and it makes sense to do so, but it's not something that I particularly, enjoy. for me, my idea of a perfect day would be to go on a drive to the countryside, go on a walk, have like a picnic, or have lunch by the sea, and have a day like that, really taking advantage of and enjoying nature. So I'm not like a huge nightlife person. And that's kind of what's frustrating to me at times, is that at the same time I have this fear of missing out when I'm just home alone on the weekend. If I don't have plans, or if I haven't, figured out something to do, it's like, well, what am I doing with my life? I could have been sitting in Bali in a big house, if I was going to be bored and isolated. So why am I paying so much money to live in a relatively small apartment and feel that way? So, I'm not giving up. It is frustrating. Like, I don't understand specifically the weird juxtaposition between men finding me attractive and me having a lot of sex, but yet that these people are not interested in something more. And okay, like, I get that a lot of them, I just think that they don't want that. It's not about me. But why is it so damn hard? Like, why is it so hard to find someone with whom you're compatible and who wants what you want, who wants to actually invest in a relationship? I don't know. It's really crazy to me. And again, I'm also just trying to kind of find out, well, what makes me like content on a day-to-day basis? Like, how can I enjoy my life as a single person here in Europe? And I'm also trying to like shift from this sort of consumerist mindset. I used to self-soothe by shopping. If I'm bored, I'll go to a store and buy something because it gives you that kind of dopamine hit. And I'm realizing that I don't need any more clothes. I really don't need any more just random stuff, because I have enough clothes. I wear the same things all the time. I don't have a job that I need to go to get dressed up for. It's very rare that I even get the opportunity to wear like, the real nice clothes that I have, because I'm just either going to the gym or playing tennis, exactly the same like it was in Bali. And, I don't need that stuff. So I'm also trying to be in a mindset now again of, okay, I want to save money because I want to buy a house. So I'm trying to project forward towards that, of having money for a down payment and thinking about the future really that I want to create, which would be also, I want to have a car, and, I want to invest in real estate in general. So rather than just the quick dopamine hit and quick fix of spending money just to evade boredom and this existential angst, I am trying to get more comfortable also with the monotony of life. When you get to your mid 30s, and if you're in my position of that you have your own business, you don't have to work that much, you kind of just wonder, like, what is this about? Like, what am I waking up for on a day-to-day basis? What is it that fulfills me? What do I enjoy? What can I do? And I just am really feeling like I need to create something else, or I need to find something else that brings me joy, that doesn't depend on spending money or depend on necessarily other people. So, these are maybe the growing pains still of having moved here and trying to establish myself, but it all is sort of coming together at this moment in my life of, again, trying to figure out my way forward and navigate these new systems, navigate the tax system, navigate the bureaucracy, navigate life in general, navigate dating. It's not easy at all. And I think that me specifically, in my life, I was always chasing the next thing and always thinking that maybe the next place would be the one that would make me happy. That's why I moved so many times. I moved from New York to Los Angeles, to Mexico, to Thailand, to Bali, to Portugal, over a 15-year period. And I'm really glad that I had all of those experiences. I don't regret them. But now also I realize that you cannot run away from life. It's not a place specifically that's going to solve all your problems. You just kind of have new problems to figure out. And again, maybe that was something where I was always chasing this idea of needing new problems because I would get bored with the old problems. And I think that one of my biggest fears is monotony, of like having every day kind of be the same. And I don't know, these are all these crazy contradictions of my life. And I don't know if this has to do with that I'm a Gemini. I don't even really believe in astrology. But like on one hand, I crave comfort and routine, and on the other hand, I get very bored when things are monotonous and I don't feel like there's forward momentum in my life. So I would say I'm a bit confused in general. I don't regret my decision necessarily to leave Bali, and I'm not sure that, how do I say this? I don't regret my decision to leave Bali, but I do a little bit regret giving up the villa if I could have figured it out financially. I think that somehow just keeping that option open in the back of my mind would make me feel a little bit better, whereas now I'm so invested now in this life. But overall, I don't know. I'm really confused. I'm just sharing with you these feelings. I don't think that there are many people necessarily who can relate to the specific way that I've created my life and what I've done, but at the same time, this is why I enjoy YouTube and sharing these experiences, because then I'm surprised when I do come in contact with you guys and you share, that you're also going through similar things. And so anyway, I know I've rambled, but this is kind of my favorite video to make these days, is just talking, rambling on. I will continue to keep you guys updated about my life. It's much easier to make these kinds of videos just talking to you rather than, making a vlog style format. Like, that requires so much more work, and to be honest, I just don't have the attention span or the energy to do those kinds of videos at this moment, especially because since I'm just here in Portugal, my life is quite monotonous. So keep your fingers crossed for me with this finanças situation. My gut tells me I think it's going to be okay. Like, if they had already recognized that I don't owe them any money, then maybe this is just kind of like a mishap of why they sent me this invoice that I still owe them money. Who knows? You just gotta kind of like roll with the punches here and keep your head up and keep going. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Until the next time, take care, and I'll see you later.